Holy sh! There's a word that's not used much for a watch anymore. Timepiece. Sure, the word feels like you should hold a monocle up to your eye before you say it, but I do think the word is more appropriate when you think about a watch like this. Something that really feels like a piece of art that can tell you the time. This is an FP Journe Chronomètre Souverain in red gold. And if you're wondering what red gold is, it's the same as rose gold, but worded so that it sounds just a little manlier. For many of you that are watch nerds like me, when I say FP Journe, you know exactly what that means. But for those that don't, it's short for Francois-Paul Journe, a living legend in watchmaking who established the brand in 1999. FP Journe reflects a level of craftsmanship and exclusivity that a lot of folks, even those that collect watches, don't know exist. That's partly due to the brand producing under 1,000 pieces per year. For comparison, Rolex produces over 800,000 per year, and even those are hard to come by these days. Here's a clip of the last time I asked a dealer if they had any Rolex no-date subs in stock. And it's also very much due to the fact that the retail price of this watch is about $30,000, and this is one of their entry-level watches.
I spent $30,000 on lottery tickets, scratch-off tickets, whatever you want to call them.
All that said, in each one of these timepieces, you'll find the highest level of watchmaking, with a personal touch to the design and creation of in-house movements that only a limited production strategy, combined with the use of the best materials and resources in the world, regardless of cost, could allow. Francois-Paul Journe is not only the founder, but he's also the head watchmaker and president. Think about that. The motto of Invenit et Vicit, Latin for he invented it and made it, are words that he actually lives by. I could say a lot more fancy words to try to convince you how good this watch is, but let me just shut up and do this. Have I convinced you now? Good. While I've collected for years, this watch is leaps and bounds more expensive than any watch I've ever owned in my life. And I can't say that I consider myself cut from the same cloth as your typical owner of an FP Journe watch. I mean, if you do a Venn diagram of Chronomètre Souverain watch owners and Taco Bell lovers, I'm pretty sure that the overlap is just me. But one of my goals is to enjoy not just as many watches as I can in this lifetime, but as many different watches as I can in this lifetime. And I wanted to truly know what it's like to not just handle, but own a watch that's truly a timepiece. I also realized that I'm very lucky to be able to do this, and so I wanted to share my experience with all of you, in case you're considering one for yourself, or you're just curious about the details of a watch of this caliber. Let's start with this. If you like your watch being instantly recognized by others, or visibly standing out, consider another watch. I've worn this watch just about everywhere in public, and unless you're in a room with a bunch of other watch nerds, no one notices it. Contrast that with just about any Rolex I've ever owned, and I get questions about each one of those all the time. The watch is thin in profile. Despite it being rose gold, it's not blingy. The dial is not complicated, the watch doesn't chime, but I think all of that is on purpose and reflects the exclusivity the brand expresses. This watch is not supposed to be admired by everyone, but shared with those close to you. On the other hand, if you want to have a three-handed watch that you won't get tired of every day, consider this watch. First of all, how could you ever get tired of seeing this movement? The in-house twin-barrel caliber 1304 movement is made of solid 18-karat rose gold. That's rare even for high-end timepieces. But on top of that, I've learned more from just staring at this watch, both the back and the front, than any article I've ever read or any podcast I've ever listened to. Specifically, I now understand so much more about how an uncomplicated watch can still cost so much. You can literally see the amount of work that has been put into the details. The Geneva stripping, the edges of the bridges, how the entire movement fits perfectly into the case, the different textures of each part of the dial, how the hands are a beautiful contrast blued steel, and needle nose perfect. A month later, and I'm still discovering new meticulous details, all of which I can take and compare with other watches to better determine if that brand, regardless of whether it's an established or an emerging one, is delivering value relative to the price. It's kind of like seeing this golf swing, and then better understanding why this doesn't work. There's one last thing I want you to consider about this watch. It's very easy to think of this timepiece as a classic dress watch that should only be worn on special occasions. For those that own this watch, and those that are considering it for the future, think about wearing it every day.
Look, you can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
From my personal experience, it's perfectly capable to withstand everyday use, and actually has its advantages. The dial is extremely legible, and the twin barrel movement makes this watch fairly accurate, even towards the end of its power reserve, which by the way is 56 hours, more than enough juice to not have to constantly worry about winding every day. Sure, it's not as robust as a Rolex, it's not a dive watch, and maybe don't take it to that bachelor party.
Man, hey!
But I want to challenge the notion that this watch, because of its elegance and its price, is somehow more fragile than any other non-sports watch. In fact, one of the quirks I love about this watch is that the power reserve is full when the indicator is at 0, not at 56. In other words, it doesn't tell you how many hours you have left before winding again, but instead, how long it's been since you last winded the watch. To me, that's Francois Journe telling you that he wanted you to wear this watch on a regular basis. This is not a stuffy watch. In fact, when I showed this to someone, the word he used was whimsical, and I think I agree. When you put it next to what I consider to be a beautiful classic dress watch, you see what I mean. It uses Arabic numerals instead of markers. The placement of the power reserve and the sub-seconds make the dial asymmetric, but it's still visually balanced. It's also larger than your typical dress watch at 40 millimeters. But the thin profile of the case and lugs makes this watch wear very comfortably, and even a little bit smaller, able to slip under any shirt cuff. All of these little details to me make this watch just as fitting with a suit as it is with jeans and a t-shirt, even in rose gold. I wouldn't call this a watch review per se, but I hope this perspective was helpful. If you have any other questions about the watch, technical or non-technical, let me know and I'll try to answer them. Feel free to reach out or include them in the comments below.